Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recaps. So, July 2023, it was a ride, to say the least. It was wild. Definitely one of the crazier months I've ever talked about on this channel. And it was a huge breath of fresh air, too. I mean, if you haven't noticed already, the last few months have been pretty dreadful when you really analyze the numbers. Uh, Particularly June, especially June, because with the lone exception of Across the Spider-Verse, June was horrid. So many movies underperformed, and we had some real expensive bombs too, like The Flash, Elemental, Dial of Destiny, all doing horrific. Although Elemental has now graduated from its performance has graduated from awful to meh, which is something Flash and Dial of Destiny wish they could have gotten. But yeah, June was a month to forget, that's for sure. July was the polar opposite, though. There weren't too many negatives with July, like really only three. Two of which I was like, okay, this will probably won't do that well. One of them, I was like, yeah, this is gonna flop immediately. But the third negative was something I never would have predicted ever, like before summer started. I was convinced this would be a smash hit, and it flopped, and it kind of shocked me to my core. But everything else hit. We had three movies that really shine bright in July, and overall it was a good month. It was a month that summer desperately needed. It was a month the whole year desperately needed. And now I get to talk about all the movies that came out and their performances. So yeah. So as usual, I'm gonna be comparing my own personal predictions to what actually happened because I find that to be fun. So yeah, let's get started. But obviously, gotta talk about the elephant in the room here, and that's Sound of Freedom. As you all know, I didn't make a prediction video for this movie. Okay, I'm well aware of that. And before any of you say anything, I just want to make it perfectly clear. The reason why I didn't make a prediction video for this was it had nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with any like type of bias or anything like that. The reason why is because this movie really snuck up on me. Like I had no idea it was releasing on 4th of July. Like I had pretty much all the summer movies that have come out that I've talked about, or at least majority of them, I knew about their existence like long in advance. This I did not. I only started I only found out about it when I was hearing like articles about like this movie's pre-sale numbers. And I'm just like, what the heck? I've never heard of this before. What's happening? Like its pre-sale numbers were like stupidly good. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then the fact that this movie opened like on a Tuesday on 4th of July, directly on 4th of July, that doesn't happen very often, like ever. Like only in very specific circumstances do movies open on a Tuesday. And because like I also didn't have a theater count, like I like to have a theater count before I make a prediction video because a theater count can really determine how well a movie does or how poor a movie does sometimes. But yeah, I had too little information. I had barely any information, so I just said, you know what? I'm not going to make a prediction video for this. I'll talk about it when I make my recap video. I've done this in the past where like some movies come out. Let's say Glass Onion back in November where it had like its 1 week run where it made like 15 million that 1 week. I was like, I'm not predicting that. There's no point. So I'll just wait to talk about it in a recap. And I did the same with this because I didn't know how long this was gonna go. I had no clue. I had no information really. So I just didn't make a prediction video. And now here I am talking about it now, and boy, it blew the fuck up, didn't it? Oh, it's okay. First of all, its opening day was 14 million, which I thought that would have one could argue that would have been like its final total, but no, it made that in one day. One day beat Indiana Jones, which was like the big movie that completely tanked. So yeah, I guess like audiences, or I guess like a very specific like, group of audiences that have been kind of like underserved. They really like latched on to this movie, and they showed up opening day. Then I was thinking, okay, this probably isn't going to last too much longer. It's probably just going to have like a big opening day, and this is going to fall off after that because there's no way it's gonna maintain this momentum. And I was right for a time because it fell 72% the next day, which is not good, and it fell a bit. Well, had a much lighter drop Thursday, only 9%. But I was like, okay, what's gonna happen to this movie? And then over the weekend, it did recover, and it made 19.6 million and 41 million for the 6 days. I was like, damn, that is really impressive for a movie I've literally never heard of until now. And then after that, things got insane. Things got real crazy. Like it's weekdays, I noticed just how like it actually improved like on weekdays from like it's Wednesday and second Wednesday and Thursday were better than its first, and I'm like, okay, that's very unusual. And then second weekend, it went up by 39%, and I was like, what the hell, man? Like you only see like a boost like that if it's like Christmas or something. Because obviously Christmas can be very weird with box office. It's usually like the post Christmas weekend where you see like jumps like this. You don't see it like on a non holiday weekend. That never happens. It's usually like on a holiday. And the thing is, like Sound of Freedom already opened on a holiday. Like we're well by the second weekend, we're well past the holiday. So the fact that it jumped that much in week two, despite Mission Possible entering the marketplace, that blew my mind. I was like, damn, what are we having like another like Passion of the Christ esque success story, which I guess is fitting considering both movies share the same actor. So yeah, and then it's been having good legs, but it's pretty clear that it's starting to fall off a bit. Like the hype isn't really there anymore. But still, it's now made 165 million domestic on a budget. I think it was 14.5 million, and these numbers are as of August 7th. So obviously these aren't final numbers. But this movie domestically, let me let me just tell you this. Like this little movie that I never heard of has made more domestically than Fast X, than Transformers Rise of the Beast, than The Flash, and I'm trying to think of some others off the top of my head. I think Creed 3 is one of them. Let me check. I'm not sure. Uh, I need like the whole year. I guess I can just go to here. Annual. There we go. Annual in 2023. It's made more than Rise of the Beast, Creed 3, Dead Reckoning Part 1, Elemental, Flash, Scream 6. Like, I never. Like, that is. I don't even have words to describe how wild this is. No, I refuse to believe there's a single person out there that was like, yep, that's gonna happen. It's gonna make big money. I don't think a single person out there exists. Because this wasn't like a big studio movie or anything. This didn't exactly have like a large like 100 million marketing budget or anything. Like this was just a movie that kind of came out of nowhere and succeeded wildly. It probably helped that there was a huge gap in the market because so many movies bombed. And the fact that this movie was clearly going after like an audience that's been like underserved, that more red state, like middle America audience that have fueled movies in the past, like American Sniper, Top Gun Maverick, they really fueled those movies. So that audience latched onto this. And it helped, I guess it helped that the movie had a message that I think most people would get behind. I like to imagine majority would, being like an anti-child trafficker movie, like the tagline here, break the silence, save the children, right? I mean, like, how are you gonna be against that? But then there's been a lot of press surrounding this movie. I've seen all of it. How like the whole movie became like ultra political, mainly for like the conservative side of things. And like conservative groups, apparently they bought tickets for the movie and they just gave them out to people, which is what I've heard. And then there was like this conspiracy that went on with like how AMC theaters was trying to like bring the movie down. It was conspiring against it by apparently some people like being like removed from the theater, but apparently it was because of like poor air conditioning or like no air conditioning in a theater, which like I don't want to be anywhere that has busted air conditioning. I don't know about you, but I'd rather not be in like in a room or in a theater where the air conditioning's off. That sounds miserable. I don't. So yeah, I wouldn't mind. It would be nice not to suffocate in there. So yeah, so that happened, and yeah, this movie's been just like analyzing this movie has been quite the experience, and it's definitely the biggest surprise hit of the year, the past few years, easily. So, yeah, Sound of Freedom, a huge hit, no doubt about it. Like a massive, massive success across the board. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about it. Massive hit, never saw it coming, and it was like it was a sign that things are actually gonna improve. Like things are not gonna be so shitty anymore at the box office. So yeah, so July got off to a good start with Sound of Freedom, but now we have to get to the movies that I actually did make videos on. First, Insidious: The Red Door, the fifth Insidious movie. I predicted an opening weekend of 25 to 30 million and a final total of 60 million. Originally, I was like low 20s, but then its preview number came out with like 5 million. I was like, okay, that's surprising. But I had a feeling it would be like very front loaded, and it hit 33 million, so it was actually higher than my prediction, only by like a little bit. And it was front loaded opening weekend, which I completely expected because it's a horror movie, it's a franchise movie. Obviously, all the fans were going to show up day one, but its legs have been pretty decent, for a horror sequel. Felt like 61%, which is like fine. And it's had good legs since, and it's now made 80 million. Well, good-ish legs for a horror movie, but it's made like 80 million, which I believe now it's the highest grossing Insidious movie. No, wait, it's not yet. I don't know if it will reach Insidious Chapter 2. That seems a little much, but it's the biggest overseas worldwide. It is number one worldwide. It's number two domestically. And I'm just like, I was kind of surprised because I thought people would stop giving a shit about these movies because like with Insidious, like people only really have good thoughts about the first movie, and then it's just been a slide downhill in terms of quality. And like with this was kind of like people like were trashing it, like saying like this is just trash, this is bad. But for some reason, audiences just showed up to watch it. I'm not sure why. Maybe they're possessed. I don't know. But yeah, there's a clear audience for these movies. And that audience actually grew in size. The last few Insidious movies, like, which is really strange. Because after Insidious Chapter 3, it fell off from Insidious Chapter 2 by quite a bit. You're thinking, okay, it's probably just gonna keep sliding down. But no, Last Key went up, Red Door went up. That's not how this works. Usually, you start off good, maybe you do better with your second movie, and then you start to slide off after that. But Insidious is not like most franchises, apparently. So, yeah, and the movie only cost like $16 million. So, yeah, they got Sony who distributed the movie. They got a nice profit out of this, I would imagine. So, yeah, Insidious: The Red Door, it was a hit, undisputed hit. And yeah, no real negatives there. But unfortunately, we have to deal with our first negative of the month, and that's Joyride. Oof. Yikes. So Joyride, initially I thought, maybe this has sleeper hit potential. Maybe it could find an audience. Maybe. It sure didn't. It definitely didn't. Oof. I predicted an opening week of like 5 to 7 million, a final total of 20 million. It hit 5.8 million, so it reached my prediction, but that's not a good thing because my predictions were real low. And its total, it didn't even reach like 13 million. This movie, it crumbled so bad. Like, all right, I had a bit of a front loaded opening, and then it fell 54%, which is not great for a movie like this. And then Barbenheimer killed it completely, took away all its screens, and now it's dead. It is absolutely dead. So what went wrong here? I guess people just didn't care. Just a general lack of apathy, or the fact that the movie. This is just one of those movies you'd be like, you know what? I'd rather just watch this on Netflix rather than just pay to see it on the big screen. I think that's kind of been like a struggle with comedies recently in the last few years. Is that like the comedies we see in theaters are really no different from the comedies we see on streaming services. There's no real like reason to watch, something that you could just watch on streaming. Like there's no like event factor to it. It doesn't feel like an event, it doesn't feel like a big deal. It just feels like I'd rather watch this on Netflix or something. So yeah, I think that was the Joyride's main. I think that was the main culprit as to why this movie failed so hard. Because it really wasn't a quality issue, but it was just a fact that people didn't give a shit issue, which we've seen a lot of this year. Movies have gotten like high scores, but that meant nothing for the box office. They still did bad. So yeah, I think it's just a case of audiences they just didn't care and it didn't show up. So yeah, so that's Joyride. It tanked, and yeah. So that was the first weekend of July. The thing is, like, compared to like last year you had like Thor Love and Thunder come out and was like the last big bright spot of summer before everything went sour. So like the year to year comparison was real bleak. It was like almost like 50 something like close to 50%. But I knew that this was like after that it would be like way better. Things would get much better, and they did. But yeah, July, I was like, well, it could have been worse. We could have gone off to a worse start, so at least there's that. But then things would get better. Unfortunately, they wouldn't improve immediately because now we have to talk about Dead Reckoning Part 1. All right. Here we go. Okay. Dead Reckoning Part 1. Mission Impossible 7. You know, I had high hopes for this movie. I mean, quality wise, it's great. It's really good. It's a strong movie. But box office wise, I had real high hopes for it for multiple reasons. One, Mission Possible, the last few Mission Possible movies have been huge successes, loved by critics, audiences, everybody. Like ever since like Ghost Protocol, the series has been have been banger after banger after banger. So I knew quality wise this movie wouldn't let us down. And like I thought it would do better than Fallout because, last year you had Top Gun Maverick, which destroyed all expectations. It became the biggest movie of the year domestically. It made like 1.5 billion. So I thought that movie would help this, a halo effect, if you will. Kind of like what happened with the Uncharted movie, how that movie came out like a few months after No Way Home. Both movies had Tom Holland, and I feel like Tom Holland's presence definitely helped Uncharted, make way more money than it should have. So I thought like the same thing would happen here, right? And the fact that this was pretty much had the whole weekend to itself, had no real direct like most of the movies that released at that point were just dead, with the exception of like Sound of Freedom, which obviously no one could have predicted how big that would be, but Yeah, I thought this movie it couldn't have failed. It couldn't fail at all, and it did. And I'm baffled as to why. Because like okay, so my prediction for this, I predicted 60 to 70 for the 3 day, 90 to 100 for the 5 day because it's open on Wednesday, and final total of like 250 plus, pretty much. So I looked at his Tuesday preview. I was like, oh wow, that's really good. Then opening day happened. I'm just like, oh. And then Thursday, I was like, oh no. Are we looking at a catastrophe here? But it did recover over the weekend, but it only opened like 54 million for the 3 day and 78 million for the 5 day. I was like, that's not great, especially considering how expensive this movie is. It was like 290 million, not including advertising. That's only like 10 million less than Dial of Destiny. So this movie really needed to make big money to just break even. But after opening weekend, I was like, okay, maybe it should still have strong legs. The movie has fantastic reviews, fantastic word of mouth. It should have a strong run, and it should still save itself. And then week 2 happened. Barbenheimer happened, and it got murdered. Absolutely murdered. 65% drop, and I was like, yep, that's it. It's over. This movie's dead. It died. Oh, that broke my heart. It really did. Oh, like it. Just thinking about it depresses me. How like Barbenheimer murdered this movie. So it fell 65%. It recovered after that. Its drops have been less severe, but the damage has been done. It's been game over. It's too little, too late. It's now made 152 million. So it won't even reach 200 million. It has no shot of reaching that. And compared to other Mission Impossible movies, it doesn't look good. Like it's better. It's not the worst performing one. The worst performing one is Mission Impossible 3, but that was like 17 years ago. So inflation wise, yeah, Dead Reckoning Part 1 is by far and away the worst performing one, which is just I don't even know. Like I don't know what went wrong here. I mean, I guess I have theories. I have like ideas of what caused this. I guess the first thing is I guess I was kind of foolish to think, oh, Top Gun Maverick would really help this movie, because the thing with Top Gun Maverick is that you really only had like one movie to deal with. That was the original. You kind of watch Top Gun Maverick by itself. You don't really need like I guess you kind of need prior knowledge, but it's not like a mandatory requirement. Well, for Dead Reckoning Part 1, this is Part 7. Like, you need to watch the last few movies to even understand what's going on here. So, obviously, this, and the fact that it's been like 5-ish years since the last Mission Possible, but even in that, I can't even really use that as an excuse, because Across the Spider-Verse was like 4.5 years after its predecessor, and it doubled its predecessor in terms of box office, domestically. And with John Wick Chapter 4, that was a 4 year, like almost a 4 year gap, biggest of the series. So, Avatar: The Way of Water, that was a 13-year gap. Sure, it made less than the first, but it still made over $2 billion. So, a time gap isn't a real problem here. I think what killed this movie was, I think it was bad timing, really bad timing. I mean, there's the fact that Sound of Freedom kind of came out of nowhere and may have taken some of this movie's audience, potentially. But then Barbenheimer, nobody could have predicted how big that would be. Like, people probably thought, oh, just some silly memes, it's not going to lead to anything, and then it became the biggest thing ever. So, yeah, I mean, I don't blame Paramount for this too much. It's not like they could have predicted what would happen. It's not like they saw the future. But yeah, I think just bad timing just ruined this movie's chances of success. Not to mention a stupidly large budget that didn't help at all. So yeah, now obviously this is supposed to be like part Dead Reckoning Part 2 is gonna come out. It hasn't been 100% filmed yet, but it like because of the writer's strike and actor strike. But I think once that's resolved, it'll finish. It will release. This is supposed to be like the finale of Mission Possible anyway. It's not like they were gonna make a Mission Possible 9 or anything. Like it was supposed to be Dead Reckoning, and that's it. It's over. So it's not like there's like much of a future here. Like, this is supposed to be the end, so I mean there's that. But yeah, this movie really underperformed. I'm really sad it did because it deserved so much better. But the movie industry can be really rough sometimes. Box office can be the marketplace can be very unforgiving sometimes. It can be just you know cold blooded, basically. And this is an example of that. So yeah, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. You're a great movie. You deserve so much better. And that's it. So, yeah, I guess there's Miracle Club. I don't care about that movie. Nobody does. Let's move on. I didn't even cover it. But, like, it's not like Sound of Freedom where everyone began to watch that movie. No one's watched Miracle Club, so we can just skip that. All right, July 21st. The weekend. Not a weekend. The weekend right here. Barbenheimer, the big meme of 2023. So with Barbenheimer, I might as well give you some context. So Barbenheimer is like the merging of two things: the Barbie movie and Oppenheimer. And it became a joke. Initially, it was like a rivalry, but then it became, I guess the internet was like, hey, instead of fighting each other, how about we work together? How about we support both movies? How about we all win? And so it became like this big thing, like this jokey thing where people were gonna, oh, I'm gonna watch both the same day, because the joke with Barbenheimer is that Barbie and Oppenheimer are like on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to movies. Because you have Barbie, this colorful fantasy comedy, and then you have Oppenheimer, a biopic about the father of the atomic bomb. It's very dark, very not exactly a fun movie. And then you have Barbie, which is like fun time all the time. So yeah, that contrast, people found it very amusing, and people began to make jokes out of it. And then like the meme just got bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where people were literally unironically paying to see both of these movies, watching them back to back. There were articles written about that. I was just like, okay, this is interesting, because I've never seen this happen before of any other like two movies that were polar opposites. I've never seen it happen with, say, Big Hero 6 and Interstellar, or Pitch Perfect 2 and Mad Max Fury Road. I've never seen it with those. But for this, people were like, let's go, let's watch both. So I thought that was so fascinating. And then when both movies came out, man, like it blew everybody away. Like this weekend, July 21st, that weekend, that is one of the biggest weekends of all time. I believe it's the fourth biggest weekend of all time. It made over 300 million total with all the movies. That's only happened three other times. And those three times, it was like with Infinity War, Endgame, and Force Awakens. So, yeah, and this was the biggest summer weekend of all time, too. This weekend, this one weekend, it's man. But now it's time to talk about both these movies separately. So, Barbie, the Barbie movie, a movie that I'm surprised it took this long to get made. You think they would have made one like the 2000s or something, but no, they waited till 2023. Okay. So, Barbie. All right. So, several months back, before the Barbenheimer really took off, I thought, okay, Barbie will probably open with like 50 something $1 million. It'll probably open decently, a solid opening. But then as time went on, I noticed the hype for the movie started to really grow at a rapid rate. I was like, okay, maybe I should increase my prediction like 80 million. It can't go past 80. It just can't. And then it just kept going and going. It wouldn't stop. It was a runaway train when it came to hype. Because the whole Barbenheimer was fueling both movies, and it reached like a fever pitch like the week of both movies coming out, and I was just like, what is going on? This movie had like the best pre-sales of 2023. I was like, what? Huh? All this for Barbie? Like I was baffled, but I was like, all right, I need to be realistic here. I don't want to make a fool out of myself. I don't want to like overestimate this. So I was still like, okay, 80 million, maybe 100 million if it's lucky for an opening weekend. But then Thursday night happened, and then it opened had a Thursday night of 22.3, and I'm just like, I didn't even know what to think anymore because this is one of the biggest preview numbers ever. It's like near the top right here. I gotta find it. Where is it? Where is it? This is a long list of previews. So it's number 24. Is the best for any movie since Wakanda Forever, like last year. These preview numbers on the same level as the Batman, Captain Marvel, the original Suicide Squad, Top Gun Maverick, Hunger Games, Lion King 2019, Deathly Hallows Part 1, Civil War, like some big money movies here. So I was just like, all right, I this movie, the sky's the limit at this point. Like, what's the point of predicting anything? Because I feel like I'm going to be wrong no matter what. So looking at the preview number, I predicted 140 to 160 and a final total of 350 to 400. But I had a feeling I knew I was going to be wrong, and I was wrong. It opened with 162, so it hit just a little higher than my prediction. And I was like, all right, this movie, it may be front loaded because obviously Barbie is a big brand, is a well established brand for generations. And I feel like the hype is only going to last like a week. No, this thing just kept going and going and going. Look at these weekday numbers, man. 26, 26, 23, 21. Like, these numbers are ridiculous. That's like, it's this movie's first Monday, a non-holiday Monday, was bigger than the Flash's opening day, the Indiana Jones 5's opening day. And this was just a regular old Monday for Barbie. It's really like that meme, like, that I remember. It was like, I forgot how it went exactly. But I was like, today was like the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday. That's literally what this is for Barbie. And then its second weekend, it just kept getting crazier because it only fell 43%, which I was like, damn, okay, this movie has some good legs. It already made 350 million. I was like, well, there goes my final prediction. And it fell another 53% this weekend, and now it has hit 468 million. So it's already well shot past my final prediction. And it's not even done yet. It's still going to keep going because it's been steamrolling everything. Well, with the exception of Oppenheimer, really, because obviously that movie has been thriving alongside it. So what caused this? Why did this? And this movie made $1 billion. I forgot to mention that. I'm telling you, like, Barbie making $1 billion is something I would have said as a joke. I'd be like, a Barbie movie, $1 billion film. That's like a crack prediction I would have made. A prediction I knew was bullshit, but I would have made just to make myself laugh. But now that prediction has come true, and I don't know what to do anymore. So, yeah, Barbie. Oh, now with I all right. I guess with this, I severely underestimated the power of memes. Right? Because well, the thing is, this movie had a really strong ad campaign. Like from like the very first trailer, like the teaser trailer, it had like such a weird tone, but it was a good type of weird. It was a type of weird that made me go, that looks interesting. And then the first trailer popped, the first like official full length trailer popped up, and I was like, okay, I'm interested. This movie has my attention. And just like how it was marketed and how it was like, it wasn't like your average Barbie movie. How it was like, going to be like different, and how it had like, Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling as like Barbie and Ken. It's just like how the movie felt like in the advertising. It felt so just, I can't find the right word. It felt, it was it. It just like, it was just so it. It just made people like turn their heads and be like, I want to watch that. And that's exactly what people did in droves, by the way. And I watched this movie. I watched it after Oppenheimer because Oppenheimer, that was a lot harder to watch because that movie was like 3 hours. But Barbie was way easier to schedule because it's like less than 2 hours. And I watched it. Yeah, I did. I paid money to see Barbie. And I thought it was just fine. I thought it was like all right, in my opinion. Obviously, this movie, I'm not exactly the target demographic here for this movie. I was well aware of that. And some of this stuff obviously wouldn't appeal to me directly because I'm a grown man. But I thought the movie was decent enough. Had some pretty funny gags in there that I found like really amusing. Particularly like with Ken's like little sweatshirt, like I am Kenough. That made me laugh. But you know, yeah, I thought it was fine. But obviously, there's been like some backlash against this movie because you know, I guess I remember like was it Ben Shapiro? Yeah, Ben Shapiro. Like he hated this movie to death. He literally burned Barbie and Ken dolls, which just to show like his hatred for the movie. Which I think in his mind he thought it was cool, but in my mind it looks embarrassing. I'm just like, you are a grown man. Why are you doing this? You do not look cool at all. Like just why? I don't know what went through his head to do that. And so yeah, there's been like a bit of like I guess conservative backlash against the movie because the movie's like it's very much a feminist flick, which I guess makes sense. It's Barbie. Barbie has always been heavily female centric. That's the whole point of Barbie in the first place. Like it's a doll for little girls. That's been its whole identity from the very beginning. But the boycott for this, there was like a boycott for it too. The boycott for this went about as well as the Hogwarts Legacy boycott, which meant it didn't go well at all. It was a complete failure because obviously Hogwarts Legacy was a huge hit earlier in the year. It made like $1 billion in like revenue, and the same thing happened with Barbie. So backlash did nothing to this. I think it only fueled this movie, honestly. So yeah, um, Barbie, undisputed hit of the summer. It's the no question about it. It's the undisputed hit of the year. I think at the rate it's going, it will beat Mario worldwide. I think it has a real shot of doing that, which is something I never would have predicted ever. Like going into the year, like the $2 billion movies, those $2 billion movies, were not going to be Mario and Barbie in my mind. I think they were going to be like Guardians 3 and Mission Possible. Those are the two where I'm like, those looked like $1 billion hits, and they weren't. No, it was Mario and Barbie. Yeah, 2023 has been weird, real weird. But yeah, Barbie, all ultra success. I can't say like anything else about it. Like, what else can I really say? So yeah, Barbie, big old hit. And now time for the second half of Barbenheimer, Oppenheimer from Christopher Nolan. So with this, my thought was like, okay, for 50 to 60 million opening weekend. Like, this was like before I made my video, but then that was before like Barbenheimer really like took off and became a huge deal, and to the point where people were gonna watch both Barbie and Oppenheimer together. Like thousands and thousands of people were gonna do that. And then I was like, all right, Oppenheimer should still do really well. It's a Christopher Nolan flick. Christopher Nolan has a diehard fan base. most pretty much all of his most of his movies have done well except for Tenet, but Tenet that was because of circumstances out of the movie's control. This didn't have to deal with any of that. So I thought Oppenheimer would do really well. Then as Thursday previews came out, it was 10.5 and I was like, okay, my predictions are getting they're too low. So I predicted 70 to 80 million opening weekend, a final total of like I think 250 to 300. And its opening weekend was 82 million. And keep in mind, this was number 2. Like, look at this. These were the top 2. Barbie with 162, Oppenheimer with 82. So the Oppenheimer 82 million. That would have been one of the best openings of the year. It is one of the best openings of the year. That would have been a great first place, but it wasn't even first. It was second. So the fact that like I have to find it. I'm pretty sure it should be here. Is it here? I don't think it's here. Shoot, but like I think the biggest opening for a non number one movie was Inside Out with like 90 million. That opened like in the shadow of Jurassic World. I didn't think we'd see a number like that ever again, but here we are with Oppenheimer with a 82 million opening weekend, and its legs have been really good, just like Barbie's. It felt like 43%, and now it's felt like 38%, and now it has made 233 million domestically as we speak. As of this is August 7th. It's made 560 million worldwide. So like Barbie, this movie is swimming in profit. Both movies are just swimming in that cash. And with Oppenheimer for Nolan, going back to him, this movie has already made more than Dunkirk and Interstellar, and it's only been like 3 weeks, which is like wild to me. And at the rate it's going, it's definitely gonna make more than Inception. It won't reach Dark Knight Rises or Dark Knight. That's too ambitious. So this will at least be his third biggest movie ever. As a director, domestically, worldwide, I think it should. I think it'll still be number 3. It should be able to beat. I don't know about Inception, but it'll definitely beat Interstellar. But yeah, this number is incredible. For a number of reasons. One, it opened the same weekend as Barbie. You think, oh, these movies would hurt each other, but they benefited each other. They thrived together. Like it wasn't much of a rivalry. It was more like a friendship. Like it kind of reminds me of like what happened in 2020, I believe, with Animal Crossing: New Horizons and Doom Eternal. Two very different games in style and tone, but both came out the same day, and people found that to be pretty humorous. So people I remember people like making fan art of both games, like having Animal Crossing characters in the Doom world and Doom characters in Animal Crossing world. It was fun. And, that was one of the times where the internet was like being like was wholesome. So that's basically what happened here. It's like it was more like wholesome memes, not like two movies like trying to make them fight against each other. So yeah, like both movies thrived together, and not to mention like this movie was 3 hours, a whole 3 hours, and I watched it, and for a 3 hour movie, like I was invested the whole time. My eyes were glued to the screen because this movie was really, really, really good. Had great dialogue, great acting. Cillian Murphy, if he does not win or get nominated for an Oscar, then the Academy fucked up. They really did, because he absolutely like earned. He needs something for this because, damn, he had a hell of a performance. And I liked how the movie, like this movie, like it wasn't just about the bomb. It was all about the guy behind the bomb. And and when we got to the bomb, like I was like feeling that anticipation, like when that bomb would come off, and then like when it did, I was like, all right, okay. Like it wasn't like a typical explosion, like when it like went off, and it was like different. I was like my eyes were. This movie's great. Okay, long story short, this movie's great. You should watch it. Absolute. Is banger the right word for this movie? Like, screw it. It's a banger. It is definitely one of the best of the year. And I can't recommend it enough. But yeah, so yeah, but this movie had a 3 hour runtime. It was R rated. It was I think Nolan's second R rated movie. Usually he sticks in the PG-13 realm, but not this one. He went R rated for this. And this movie is actually going to be one of the biggest R rated movies ever. Like, I'm not even joking about that. Like, domestically, it's number 11 already. It's going to shoot up the list to like the top 5 at least. Like, movies like Passion of the Christ, Deadpool, American Sniper, Joker, Deadpool 2, like, it's going to reach that level, which is crazy, which is real crazy. And then, in case something weird happens, this will be the highest grossing non number one movie of all time. Like, a movie that never opened at number one, it'll be the biggest. It'll beat Sing. I don't even know why Sing's number one, but it just is. But yeah, like, that is absolutely incredible. So yeah, Oppenheimer, undisputed hit, just like Barbie, big old hit, smash hit. It earned it. And yeah, like, Barbenheimer was the story of the summer, really. I guess with the exception of, like, I guess Across the Spider Verse and Sound of Freedom. Like, Barbenheimer was the moment of the year. It really was, and it was a moment that it couldn't have happened at a better time because things were looking real dire, and Barbenheimer pretty much saved summer from total oblivion. So that's great. That's nice. So yeah, that was that weekend. Then you had the final weekend of July, July 28th. We have two movies to talk about. Haunted Mansion, Talk to Me. So, Haunted Mansion. Ooh, boy. I knew this movie, it was circling the drain for a while. I just had a feeling it wasn't going to do well because, like, the original Haunted Mansion from 2003 with Eddie Murphy, that wasn't a hit. It wasn't liked, at least at the time. Apparently, it has gone like a bit of a revival in the last few years. People like appreciate it more now than they did back then. I don't know if there's like any like serious evidence to back that up. Well, I haven't seen the movie in like forever, but yeah, the Haunted Mansion 2003 wasn't a hit, and with this, it was more expensive and way more expensive. And despite having a really strong cast, like, no one was talking about this movie, and nobody was hyped about this movie. And then when I watched the trailers, I watched the trailer twice in front of Barbie and Oppenheimer. It appeared both times. I could understand why people weren't talking about it because, man, this movie looked so lifeless and boring and just like a total waste of of energy. Just like, why would I watch this? Like, it looks so lame, like lame as hell. And so yeah, I watching those trailers. Those was the first time I actually. This was the first time I actually watched a trailer for this movie. Watching those trailers, it made me go, "Yeah, this movie is not going to do well." I could just tell from the trailer. And so my prediction for this movie was like 25 to 30 million, and final total is like 70 million, which is absolutely atrocious for a movie with a budget this big of 157 million. And it didn't even reach 25, it reached 24 million. So, oof. And its second weekend, it fell 62%. It wasn't enough to have like Barbenheimer in the market. Then you add Ninja Turtles on top of that, like, it was over. So it's now reached like 43 million right now. I don't think it's going to reach 70 million. I think they're going to want to give up screens for this movie for other movies. Probably Blue Beetle, I would guess, in like a week or so. But yeah, this, ooh. Again, I knew this was gonna tank. I mean, like, Disney 2023 has been like the worst year. At least 2022. Sure, they had some absolute embarrassments like Lightyear and it was Lightyear, Amsterdam. That was a part of 20th Century Studios, but still, Amsterdam, Strange World was a huge one. But at least they had like some hits, movies that technically made a profit. Movies like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness and Thor Love and Thunder and Black Panther Wakanda Forever and Avatar The Way of Water, those made money. 2023, you had like one movie that's made money, and that's Guardians 3. Everything else, bomb or flop. Like Ant-Man 3, Little Mermaid, Elemental, Dial of Destiny, flops. All of them. And this joins the pack. So, yeah, oof, oof, oof. You want to know what's really damning about this? This Haunted Mansion's performance, like its opening weekend. I just want to show you. All right, its opening weekend was worse than Haunted Mansion's opening weekend. Worse. A movie that came out 20 fucking years ago. That opened higher than the new Haunted Mansion. I think that should tell you all you need to know about how well the new Haunted Mansion did. And the thing is, Haunted Mansion that came out like the original came out like in Thanksgiving, so it didn't even open on a Friday. This opened like in summertime, so you think it would do at least a little better than that, but it didn't. Total bomb. So yeah, nothing else to say. This movie's a disaster. I expected it to be a disaster, and that's it. I I don't know how long Disney can really keep going with all these bombs. At some point, these bombs are gonna start doing um some serious damage, some permanent damage to the studio. Like it's like cause like some a real negative domino effect over there. It may have already happened at this point. It probably has. But yeah, I but Disney they really it'd be wise to not have too many more big flops like this. But I feel like we're gonna get some in the future. I don't know what else is coming out for Disney this year. I know there's the Marvels, supposedly. If the writers and actor strike keeps going, then that's definitely gonna move. Wish, I don't know. Disney animations, it's been rough the last few years. So I don't know, but the point Disney has been doing real bad, and I don't expect it to improve much. So yeah, ugh. And last but not least, Talk to Me from A24. I predicted an opening weekend of 5 to 10 million, which was actually better than most people. They predict like 3 to 5 million, and it hit 10 million, over 10 million. I was like, oh, okay, that's nice, that's good. And I predicted like a final total of like 20 million, I think, and it's now reached 22 million after like 2 weeks. So this is like as of, but these are still estimates. But still, it's hit 22 million already on a budget of like 4.5 million. It doesn't say it here, but that's the official budget. Like that's really good. Like that's really good for a little movie like this. I mean, for A24 standards, it's going to be one of their bigger movies. So yeah, like that's nice. It's a nice little success story there, and they're already planning a sequel to this. So yeah, it's a hit. Not much else to say, really. I mean, unlike most movies like this summer, like this isn't one of those movies where they're just like you gotta spend money to lose money. Like you can have like a very small like budget film, but as long as you sell it right and it's good, you can make your money back real easy. You don't have to spend a stupid amount of money to make a lot of money. Okay. And this movie and Insidious the Red Door both prove that. Like you you can have a very inexpensive film, and if you handle it well, you're gonna make a nice amount of profit. So yeah, so that was Talk to Me, and yeah, that was it for July. So there wasn't like a whole lot of movies that came out. There's like less than 10 like wide releases. I think yeah, less than 10. But it was I would say the month was a success for the most part. With the exception of Mission Impossible. But, if that movie did well, then this would have been the perfect month. But we don't live in a perfect world, so what are we going to do? So, yeah, that was July. Now we're already in August, and August has been going all right so far. Mutant Mayhem has done okay. Meg 2 is done better than I thought, but still not doing all that well. The rest of August is real bleh. I don't know. Last Voyage of Demetra is looking like an absolute bomb. Nobody gives a shit about that movie. Blue Beetle is kind of in the same ballpark. Strays, I have no clue when it comes to that. Gran Turismo, that could do well. I've heard really good things about it, but I guess we'll find out come like August 25th. Yeah, the rest of August is looking kind of bleh, but it's still better than last year. Last year was real dire. So, yeah. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage, all previous recap videos I made on the channel. Want to watch any of those? Go right ahead. There's also box office predictions where I predict box office for movies. I've done prediction videos for all the movies I mentioned in this video. So I want to watch with the exception of Sound of Freedom, obviously. But everything else I've covered, I made prediction videos for. So if you want to watch any of those prediction videos, go right ahead. If you want to watch any of the ones I've done the past few years, go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I'm at 200 episodes right now. I'm surprised I haven't made more considering the strikes are still going. They're going to be going on indefinitely from what I've heard. So yeah, but I've talked about some of these movies in canceled episodes before. I know I talked about Dead Reckoning Part 1 several times. But yeah. Yeah, but I've made 200 episodes. If you want to watch any of those episodes from beginning to now, I want to binge them all from beginning to now, I highly encourage you to do that. So go do it. I might as well mention, oh yeah, the August recap. Might as well mention the next recap. That will happen the first week of September after Equalizer 3 comes out. And then I have to plan my summer 2023 recap, which is a little hard because this summer has not gone the way I thought it would. So like the current plan is to split into 3 videos, which is what I usually do. And it's going to be like non-losers, small losers, and big losers. That's the plan I have. I'm probably going to stick with it, but it might change. But yeah, that's the plan I have. But that won't happen to like way later, to like mid-September at the very least. So stay tuned for those videos. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos of the channel, go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.